Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zakka. Jacob, there's been yet another twist in the OPS versus EPS saga. Today, a single-judge bench of the Madras High Court ruled that the General Council meeting of the AIADMK has to be convened again. Remember, in the last General Council meeting that happened a few weeks ago, there was huge scenes of violence, after which EPS was elected by a wide majority to be the unitary General Secretary of the party. Today's decision by the Madras High Court is huge relief for OPS, and it's a big blow to EPS's dreams of having solitary leadership of the AIADMK party. But the bigger question is the AIADMK going to continue to be in this confused state of affair between now and 2024? And who does this infighting actually help? Is it the DMK, the ruling party, or is it the BJP, who's potentially an ally to one of these two factions of the AIADMK? But first, this fratricidal war that is consuming the second biggest party in Tamil Nadu.
Supporters of O Panneerselvam celebrating after the Madras High Court ruled in his favour. The court said the appointment of OPS's arch-rival E Palaniswami as AIADMK's General Secretary is not valid. The Madras High Court ordered the party to hold a fresh General Council meeting and stayed resolutions taken in the previous meeting, like expelling OPS and appointing EPS as the interim General Secretary of AIADMK. The dual leadership structure will continue till fresh elections are held. OPS had argued that the General Council meeting on the 23rd of June, in which EPS was elected General Secretary, was illegal. He had contended that the meeting, which was called by EPS, was in violation of the party's bylaws that say such a meeting should be jointly convened.
தீர்ப்பு சென்னை உயர்நீதிமன்றத்தில் இன்றைக்கு அளிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிற தீர்ப்பு நல்ல தீர்ப்பாக தொண்டர்களுக்கான தீர்ப்பாக இது அமைந்திருக்கிறது. தென்றோட ஆதரவோடும் தமிழக மக்களுடைய அரவணைப்போடும் நாங்கள் தொடர்ந்து நடத்துவோம்.
Soon after the High Court order, a vindicated OPS went to the memorial of former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister G Jayachandran.
You can see the visuals on our screen where O Panneerselvam is right now paying respects to ADMK Supremo Jayalalitha at the memorial here.
It was OPS who had become the Chief Minister when Jayalalitha died in 2016. But her close aide Shashikala picked EPS for the top post. When Shashikala went to jail, EPS and OPS came together and expelled her from AIADMK. Under their dual leadership deal, OPS became the coordinator and EPS the joint coordinator. But EPS argued that decision-making was difficult under dual leadership, and it's time for the party to have one leader.
I don't want to travel with Palaniswami because he doesn't have gratitude. Or in between two, Panneerselvam is a better man.
While the Madras High Court order is a relief for OPS, he still has to win the support of the party's General Council that expelled him.
All right, on the talking point this evening, Kovai Satyan is spokesperson of the AIADMK, S. Muralidharan, political analyst, joining us, R. Rajagopalan, senior journalist, and Ramaswamy Meyyappan, advocate of the Madras High Court. Kovai Satyan, let me start with you first. The General Council meeting that happened a few weeks ago seemed like a settled question that out of the 2,400 and odd number of members in your party in the General Council, it seemed like a large majority were in support of EPS. But today, has the court's ruling, has the Madras High Court's ruling sort of cut to size the ambitions of your leader, Mr. Edappady, to become the sole General Secretary and the sole leader of the AIADMK?
I would say his elevation as numero uno is delayed but not denied. The order from the Honorable Judge is pretty much clear. Let me read it out. There shall be no impediment for the coordinator and joint coordinator on their own to convene General Council meeting jointly to decide the affairs of the party, including amendment of the party constitution restoring to single leadership. So he said that, yeah, they can convene the meeting for which the commissioner has been appointed. Once the meeting is convened, there has to be an agenda on single leadership, and Mr. Edappady Palaniswami, who has the majority, will definitely get elevated.
But it is
Bearing
precisely this single leadership question that was challenged in the court, and the court has said that they have to go back to the coordinator and joint coordinator system, and of course then the general counsel can be called for. You had opposition to the joint coordinator issue. That's why you called for the general counsel in the first place.
Okay, now the issue is coordinator is there, joint coordinator is there, and there is a commission being appointed to conduct the general counsel. Look at the next judgment of the if a proper representation from not less than 1/5 members of the total members of the general council is received, the coordinator and the joint coordinator shall not refuse to convene the general council meeting.
Okay.
This is what happened. 2,190 members gave in writing to the presidium chair, who was elected as presidium chair, to convene a general council meeting. So now the court says that the coordinator and joint coordinator cannot refuse if 1/5 of the general council members ask for a general council meeting. So they are going to ask this already.
So you are basically saying that it's only a matter of time before EPS becomes the single leader of your party. Let me ask S. Muralidharan that. Is that your interpretation of today's judgment? Because I think it was clear, at least from what we saw, the scenes that we saw in the last general council meeting, it seemed like majority support within the AIADMK establishment was with Edappady Palaniswami. Of course, OPS had objections to the manner in which the general council was called. But today's ruling by the Madras High Court, does it only delay single leadership, or does it put single leadership in the back burner?
No, it only delays, Zakka, I don't think, because we also had another version of the court saying that these are party matters which can be, discussed and concluded at your end, and you don't have to rush it to the court every time. Even in fact, OPS was pulled up saying that why you keep coming to the court when you have your own democratic way of, electing a leader, etc. So I think it's only getting delayed, and this was expected. And OPS, I told you, he's not going to go down without a fight. And he is going to create trouble. He's going to probably ally with, Sasikala. He's talking about that. Today's thing is probably shot in the arm. So definitely he's going to talk to Sasikala. He's going to talk to... Tinakaran has already conveyed that, he's willing to join with OPS. Yeah. So all this is going to happen. But the sad point is, whatever they're going to do, that's going to strengthen or give the advantage to DMK. And sadly, BJP is also not doing anything about it. It's unfortunate BJP thinks that, both these guys are in loggerheads and it's going to help them, command over them. So that's not going to be beneficial to BJP. That's very unfortunate. It's going to bring down, because 2024, there are 38 seats at stake. So that's what BJP needs to understand. EPS becoming strong, yes, he will be a thorn in the flesh for them, but he's somebody who can beat DMK.
Okay, let me ask R. Rajagopalan this. Because the prevailing sentiment in the AIADMK seems to be that while EPS seems to have control internally within the party, OPS, Sasikala coming together is just a matter of time. With or without the blessings of the BJP, we don't know that yet. But you have this, paradox of a situation that the person who seems to have control of the party and the party organization doesn't seem to be the one that's favored by the other faction, which is Sasikala plus OPS, and like I said, plus or minus BJP.
The paradox, Zakka, what in 2021, Mr. Amit Shah and Mr. Narendra Modi have, given a formula to Mr. EPS, Edappady Palaniswami, when he was chief minister, he said 100% we will not admit Sasikala. So from my understanding of today's judgment, to put it in a crystal clear for your viewers, OPS legally has won. Organizationally, Mr. Edappady Palaniswami has won. The single leadership is going to be a factor. Single leadership of Vatrai Thalime in Tamil, what they say. In fact, all of us know Tamil. We can have a deliberation in Tamil also for a few moments. The reason being, Zakka, OPS, legally though one, EPS has a strength. And my interesting aspect is, who will get that, authorization of, the electoral symbol of ADMK, 2 leaves? Yeah. That gentleman will be the powerful person. Till last year, there were 2 persons were signing. Now, the factor and the fight for signature is there. Second, my clear understanding is Sasikala, OPS, TTV Dinakaran will go the way of DMK. And actually, in 1.5 years, in 15 months, rule of DMK, people are dejected, people are distancing from DMK. They want to have some way out so that they can express their view. There is no election immediately for another 1.5 years. Till then, this drama will be there. You and me will be debating every day. But the overall, since the vacuum is there, my two quick points is that two Kalagams will be, facing a demise, and Rajinikanth, who was wanting to take a plunge in the politics, he is now withdrawing. With OPS, EPS having everyday jagada. Now, the third force is fastly emerging. The silent voters, those who are below 35 years, Zakka, I tell you, there was a study done by an illustrious college in Tamil Nadu. They spoke that 65% of the 35% age group, they wanted alternative to Kalagams. There are 8 Kalagams in Tamil Nadu. 8 में 2 तो निकल जाएगा, फिर 6 में fight है. So therefore, there is a bright possibility of 2024 Lok Sabha giving a split verdict. EPS will have a control, BJP will have a control, DMK will be pushed to second term, the second stage. The reason being, there is total disagreement about the DMK rule for the past 15 months.
Okay, let me ask Ramaswamy Meyyappan. I think one of the larger questions that a lot of political parties are also asking is, these are internal matters of political parties, and I think earlier the Madras High Court had said that you have enough mechanisms within your party to resolve these issues. Why are you coming to the court? If this sets a precedent for fights within political parties to be settled by courts of law, what is the law and order issue here? What is the legality issue here? Ultimately, whoever has majority control of a party, he or she should be given the reins of that party.
See, Zakka, what the majority have failed to realize, the court today has very clearly said that it is not looking at interfering into the decisions of the party's internal matters. In fact, the court in paragraph, if I can say 78, clearly at the very end says, the court cannot interfere in the decision of the party, but if there is patent violation of the process, there is no bar to seek remedy through court. And the court says when due process is not followed, then the court will step in. What are political parties? Majority of political parties in the country are registered societies. So when there are registered societies, if they don't follow their own bylaw or the Society Registration Act, then the court is bound to interfere. And here what's happened, the notice that was issued on 1/7 by the Edappady faction for calling for the General Council meeting was not in accordance with law. And the court clearly struck that down. All that the court is saying today is that you have the numbers, you show the numbers in strength at an appropriate meeting. Don't just call your 2,500 General Council members. You claim that you have 1.5 crore party cadre. Historically, this party, as opposed to other political parties, has functioned on the basis strength of the cadre. The cadre have decided who their leader will be, what will be their bylaws. And now call it 1.5 crore cadre, that is your bylaws. Let them make a decision. If they want to change your bylaw, you change it. If they want to change your leader, you change.
No,
but
so
if you just do it,
one slight
that is not proper.
Difference, not difference, one slight, example, if you were to go back and look at the history of the AIADMK, when MGR died, there were, of course, the Jayalalitha faction and the Janaki faction. The Jayalalitha faction prevailed because it had support of the majority of the cadre, and eventually, of course, she went to the people and won elections. Ultimately, that's the essence of a democracy. In a democracy, the people decide. So even in the AIADMK, it's up to the party to decide, and as per the laws as it stands today, it's the General Council that decides. It cannot be a court of law's decision, or it cannot be up to the court of law to say, okay, the General Council was not convened in the proper fashion, or the General Council needs to be reconvened in a different fashion. Ultimately, the choice has to be that of the members of the AIADMK, just like what we saw, even though Janaki Ramachandran might have had more claim to the party as MGR's wife, ultimately Jayalalitha won because she had majority support of the cadre of that party. That is how it's settled in history.
See, absolutely. So today again, there is 2 tests that will have to be taken. One, OPS had the direct appointment of Amma Jayalalitha to become the chief minister, and Edappady Palaniswami, through his governance, has shown how he's had control over majority of the party, the majority of the General Council members. So now it's for the party cadre, the 1.5 crores, to take tests as to who will be the right person to lead this party into the next front, the next era. Traditionally, the AIADMK has had charismatic leaders who come from mainstream media, who've been able to garner the strength of the entire population, not just the 1.5 crore cadre, to come to government. So now what the next leadership action should be is to garner that support from its cadre. If they can't do that, then I think then they will have to walk their rope.
Okay. We had an interview with TTV Dinakaran a few days ago, just before this verdict came out, and he said very, very clearly, and I want to ask Uvai Satyan this, he said very, very clearly that he prefers Panneerselvam over Palaniswami. He foresees at some point some kind of an alignment between OPS, Shashikala Dinakaran, and maybe with the BJP. He said, I'm keeping that possibility open. Do you believe that at the end of the day, 2024 or maybe 2026, it's going to be AIADMK E team versus AIADMK O team?
It's going to be AIADMK versus others. TTV Dinakaran claiming himself for impersonating AIADMK flags, style of functioning, doesn't necessarily give him the credit that he is one leaf of AIADMK. He is going to be a faction representing a community in Tamil Nadu. That's how it is going to get boiled down. The question here is, I want to answer Mr. Mayappan. The court didn't say that let's check with 1.5 crore members. The court said the 250 members, are they really representing the 100 crore primary members, is to be examined and tested. How it can be done is, it can be only through conducting an election for the post of General Secretary. There is no deviation in that particular clause. Nobody can take a deviation. The General Secretary has to be chosen by the primary members of the party. Neither General Council members nor Edappady has taken a deviation on the same. So having said that, it's all about how the process has to be done. That's why there is a commissioner who has been appointed.
Okay.
While fearing that he is going to lose his identity and his post as a coordinator, OPS hurriedly ran to judiciary and sought their help to stall the June 23rd General Council meeting, subsequent to which he went again on 11th. There was a court where 11th morning that there is no bar to conduct the General Council. The question again here arises that if they are being entitled to call, they have to do so if 1/5 of the General Council members seek to call for a General Council. That is also clearly laid out. So there is no way Mr. OPS can take an excuse saying that he has consented, he has partially consented, he has not consented moving forward. So the majority is what is going to decide now.
Ultimately, when you go back to the people, whenever it is 24 or 26, Mr. Rajagopalan, it is going to be absolutely critical which of these factions, assuming that they are going to be in different factions, which of these factions has the two-leaf symbol. The Election Commission laid out procedure is very, very simple. Whoever has control of the party gets the symbol. That is the critical factor.
Very simply putting it, as the organization is with EPS, therefore EPS will have that authority. And second thing, taking a point before what Mr. Kovai Satyan, AIADMK spokesman said, he was very, very quiet in saying this is a factor between Tevar community and Gounder community, Zakka. The fight is reduced to the ground zero level. This is going to happen. Therefore, there is no possibility of meeting their eyes, and both will again have this type of internecine fight each other, and the cadre will be confused. As you titled this debate as a confused AIADMK, my understanding is EPS has the upper hand, OPS is confused, and OPS, though legally won, as the today's judgment, which I also read some paragraphs, which clearly indicates organization is supreme. The 250 persons whom, out of the 250, EPS has got 170 to 200. Where OPS stands, he should have attended that General Council. He ran away from that. Okay. So therefore, there are minus points in OPS, minus points in EPS side. Now there should be a meeting point, and I presume there is not going to be a meeting point. Therefore, the split will continue.
All right, I'll give Mr. Muralidharan the final word. The question is, who benefits more? Does the DMK benefit more from a divided AIADMK, or does the BJP benefit from a weakened AIADMK? Because ultimately, if the BJP has to grow in a state like Tamil Nadu, it has to be at the cost of the AIADMK's vote bank, because you have a finite number of people, electors, you have a finite number of electorate. Then if they have to grow, assuming that you're a DMK supporter and the chances of DMK supporters moving to the BJP is less, then the only option before the BJP to grow in a state like Tamil Nadu is growing at the expense of the AIADMK, or what used to be the undivided AIADMK.
Exactly.
Muralidharan, thank you.
Exactly, Zakka. So that's how it is. Right now, the BJP is greedy. They want to grow. They don't mind destroying ADMK, but it's going to be advantage DMK. That's what they fail to understand.
Okay.
For a final.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I want to thank all our guests. We'll see how this story plays out. Ultimately, one thing is very clear. In a party founded by M.G. Ramachandran, the legacy taken forward by Jayalalitha, these larger-than-life figures, this kind of almost fratricidal war going on inside the AIADMK is not something that either of those two leaders would have brooked. But let's move on to the other big story. Again, in a southern state, this is a huge move ahead of the Karnataka state election, which is due next year. The BJP top brass has included former Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa in the party's highest decision-making body, the party's parliamentary board. In a tweet, Yediyurappa thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi, BJP President J.P. Nadda and party top brass Amit Shah. After this, Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai also congratulated Yediyurappa. He went and met Yediyurappa. You can see the pictures on the right. Top leaders of the Karnataka BJP also extended their warm greetings to Yediyurappa. In fact, Mr. Bommai said that this move will boost the morale of party workers in the state ahead of polls. Remember, all of this comes just a year after the BJP-led Karnataka cabinet underwent a reshuffle. Yediyurappa was replaced by Basavaraj Bommai as the chief minister. Let's listen in to political reactions that have been coming on this story.
B.S. Yediyurappa has been appointed for parliamentary board and election committee, which is the highest decision-making body. I congratulate him on this occasion and I thank our party leaders. It has given a very big boost for BJP in Karnataka. All the workers are very happy. The people of Karnataka are also very happy. And the great services and the great programs what Yediyurappa has been done. Now, even now people remember it. And we are going all united together.
What are your first reactions to Yediyurappa being elevated to the BJP's parliamentary board? Does that make it a little more difficult for you? Because people do say that he has a lot of influence in Karnataka politics.
Influence in Karnataka politics. But if you are strong, if you had repeated a government, why would they have removed him? Why would they have made him to cry? Why they would have made raid of all his family members and friends? This is the issue. In Karnataka party, Karnataka Congress party, we all will run the elections on a collective leadership. That is what Rahul Gandhi has given us the direction.
I'd like to thank Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, our National President Nadda ji, our Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji, and also Santosh ji. See, as far as Congress is concerned, they are under the impression that they are coming back to power in the state of Karnataka. There is a lot of leadership competition which is going on in the Congress party. But as far as BJP is concerned, we are confident under the able and dynamic leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji and our Honorable Chief Minister Bommai ji. We are pretty sure that BJP is going to come back to power in the state of Karnataka.
Making him part of a parliamentary board. Many say this exposes the dual stance. How would you view it, sir? How would Mr. Yediyurappa view it?
The question of dual stand does not arise at all. Since ultimately it's party's call. Our central leadership has decided to utilize the Yediyurappa's strength, not at all bothered about my future.
All right, I want to go across to Harish Upadhyay, who's joining us with that story. So, the elevation of someone who was removed as chief minister or asked to step down citing advanced age, and in the BJP, everybody knows post-75, there's only the Margdarshak Mandal. The fact that he's been elevated to the parliamentary board, the highest decision-making body, does it show, Harish, at some level, the indispensability of Yediyurappa?
Absolutely. It shows two things. One, the importance of Yediyurappa here and how important he is for BJP scheme of things, not just for 2023, also for 2024. And the fact that Basavaraj Bommai hasn't managed to emerge as someone who becomes a mass leader who can replace B.S. Yediyurappa, if not to the full extent, even to a lesser extent, that hasn't happened. There's no other leader. And that's one of the reasons why he has been elevated. Second, we also need to understand that over the last few weeks, the sense within the BJP is also that Congress perhaps is gaining ground, whether it's Siddaramaya's birthday bash or the recent Freedom March. They've seen a very good crowd turnout, and the government has been trying to struggle in fact, it's struggling with some of these controversies, and perhaps this elevation will in a way galvanize the party workers and also give some sort of a space for B.S. Yediyurappa to go across the state and ensure that the organization is in a way put in place before the election starts. So on both those counts, this is a significant elevation.
And secondly, what may this mean for Basuraj Bommai? Because over these last few days and weeks, there's been intense speculation about him possibly being changed and a new sort of leadership at the helm. But does this now put to rest all that speculation now that his sort of mentor, if you will, I'm using a loose phrase here, B.S. Yediyurappa has been elevated to the highest decision-making body of the party?
Well, in a way, it's partial relief for Basuraj Bommai that B.S. Yediyurappa will be in the parliamentary board. And right now, Bommai enjoys B.S. Yediyurappa's confidence, his support. But nonetheless, the Chief Minister who spoke just a while ago hasn't ruled out a cabinet reshuffle overall of sorts, where there are significant ministries or ministers dropped and new faces brought in. That's something that is likely on the cards, and also a significant reshuffle within the party as well, because many, whether at Delhi level or here, believe that the current organization here of the BJP hasn't performed to the expectation and new faces need to be brought in.
All right, Harish, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much. Harish Upadhyay reporting for us on this significant change that's happened in the BJP's parliamentary board. Also, not just Yediyurappa's elevation, but also the omission of Nitin Gadkari and Shivraj Singh Chauhan also sending out a message very clearly. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again at 9 p.m. with Brass Tacks. On the other side, Ridhima joining you with the biggest exclusive.